Okay, hello everybody. This is Peace is Built Through Communication, and this meeting is being recorded. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day today. Of course, this is the mighty Black Friday. Changes the entire world, right? Everything revolves around Black Friday, apparently. Okay, well, today we have a Peace Built Through Communication. So this is our monthly discussion group. And this is for the School of Metaphysics. And for you, for anybody, whoever you are who's watching this is for you. And know that you can join us. We do this at the end of the month, normally around about the fourth Friday of every month. That's our goal. And we start at 6:30 Central. We've kept that for a little more than, I think we're at 2.5 years right now. This is right in the middle. We started in January of 2023. So welcome everybody. Glad y'all are here. Thanks for being here. And so we discuss things, we bring up topics, and today being Black Friday, we decided that we talk something about being busy. Thought we might call it the busy because everybody's focused in that way, right? And so what we'll do, my name's Terrence Lamont, not the School of Metaphysics. I'll change my name. And I am the National Peace Ambassador for the School of Metaphysics. And so we have other peace ambassadors throughout the organization of the School of Metaphysics, not-for-profit organization, 501c3, started in Springfield, Missouri in 1973 incorporation. And peace is built into our fullness. It's a huge part of why we exist, what we learn, what we teach, what we experience. And so this was brought forward from the daily reading of the Universal Peace Covenant, which you can go to peacedome.org and you can do a little research about our peace efforts. And you can also find links for this event and also links, or actually a link for this event and also a link for the morning reading. So we do this morning reading every single morning. We read a document. It's about 777 words, if I'm not mistaken, of a beautiful vision of peace. And so it fits on like one piece of paper, one regular piece of paper. So it's not really long, but it's powerful. And as you engage with it, as you read it, as you receive it, it will help you to align your mind and your thoughts and your consciousness. Your patterns will begin to become awake, and you will start to see how peace works. You'll have more of what I ascertain, a greater vision of what peace actually is on a personal level. So when you read it over and over again, as we've done since 2020, actually, it was April Fool's Day, 2020, when we started. We're no fools about peace. Oh, Lord, I'm having fun today. Okay, so we started on that day, 2020, April 1st, and we've been reading it every single day. We haven't missed a day. Can you believe that? On Zoom, we jump on Zoom every morning at 7:30 Central Standard Time. Some human being has read the some human being has read the Universal Peace Covenant, not just from the School of Metaphysics, from many different walks of life, many people over this stretch of time. So this was 2000, somewhere around 70, right? What was the number today? Anybody know? I'll give other people space to talk for sure, but give me 1 second. What was the number still? Do you remember?
I think it's 2067.
Okay. So something like 2067 times in a row, we've read the Universal Peace Covenant. So you are all absolutely invited to experience this with us in the morning. So again, you can go to peacedome.org, and there you can find the information necessary to learn about what the School of Metaphysics is doing in relation to peace. And we're also on Facebook under the Universal Peace Covenant page. I could keep going on and on. There are many different ways to find us. But I think when the heart is open, the eyes will see. So hopefully you're opening your heart today. All right. So I've been talking a lot. TJ, you want to read it? The preamble?
I can do that. As it is established in the Universal Peace Covenant, and since peace is indeed built through communication, the open exchange of ideas is necessary for discovery and well-being, for growth, for progress, whether within one person or among many. We come together here now in this meeting of hearts and minds to have a spirited discussion. This is an open forum. This is not a class. There are no teachers, and peace is built through communication, live YouTube discussion. In this experience, we establish the reality that we are all equal. We have a moderator who has been chosen prior and chooses now to give of themselves freely, and does not wish to push or cajole or manipulate those who join here today or those who might witness this in the future. For this discussion, it is indeed designed to share ideas, experiences, and understandings, and by doing so, come to a greater truth through each one sharing their personal experience with sagacity, with equanimity, both free of prejudice, so that thus we will come to know that peace is liberty in tranquility.
All right. Thank you, sir. So today our moderator is Stella Lynn Boggio. But so if y'all could bounce around from Stella to TJ, and then anybody else who wants to just introduce themselves really quickly, so we all just kind of know who we are. Maybe it's a little bit about how you got here, and then we can come back and get started with what we really are here to talk about, Stella. Stella Lynn, you want to introduce yourself?
Okay, I was waiting. Yes, I'm Stella Limboggio. I am a student, always a student first, and I'm a teacher and the director of the School of Metaphysics in Indianapolis. And I am coming from Cincinnati, Ohio, where I'm visiting my mom for the holidays. And I am happy to be here, share some stories.
And let's see, for this occasion, you can call me TJ Jackson Bay. You can pretty much call me that anytime. And I'm a former student in the School of Metaphysics, and I've been joining the group that reads the Universal Peace Covenant every day for quite a while. I don't know what day I personally started doing that, but in doing that, this discussion developed as Terrence Lamont explained before, and so here I am to discuss here as well. I hail from Springfield, Missouri.
I'm also from Missouri. I'm in Jefferson City, Missouri. This is my first experience with you folks. I'm looking forward to joining with like-minded spirits. Your program sounds very intriguing, and I'm very dedicated to the idea of peace, both personal peace and universal peace. We'll put it that way. So definitely looking forward to the discussion.
Welcome, Robert. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And my name's Scott Nelson. I go to the School of Metaphysics currently, and my instructor is Alex. She's on here too. And I'm in Oklahoma City.
Thanks for being here, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Hey everyone, I'm Alex, and I go to the Oklahoma City School Branch of the School of Metaphysics. I'm a student and I'm in the second cycle of study, and I'm a teacher. I'm also the Peace Ambassador. That's my lab position at the Oklahoma City School Branch. So I'm excited to connect and to move through fears, of being recorded, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to see all your faces, and I can't wait to talk about being busy.
All right. Thanks for being here.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I also attend the School of Metaphysics in Oklahoma City, and I'm a Cycle 1 student. I've been taking classes at the school for a little over 3 years, and so yeah, I'm just excited to be here with you all.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. And remember, this is a self-generated discussion group. So we have one more person, Barbara.
Yes, I'm getting there, figuring out which button to push, right? My name is Barbara Condren, and I really owe it to the School of Metaphysics that peace is part of my life. When I was 22, I started classes at the School of Metaphysics that were and still are offered in Columbia, Missouri. And part of the ideal of the School of Metaphysics that was actually being formed in those days, in 1975, is to aid any individual who's willing to put forth the effort to become a whole functioning self, not dependent on any person, place, or thing for peace, contentment, and security. And as we worked that through and began to talk about it, teach about it, think about it, live about it for years, it became very real to me, and has been real to me, still is real to me, is renewed every moment and every day. And it is wonderful to have ways to understand it, to communicate it through thought and action. So I don't always come on the last Friday of the month, and I'm glad to be here tonight with you. So thank you for hosting.
I'm gonna unmute myself. Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you're here. Glad everybody's here. And Stella Lynn is our moderator. Take it away, Stella.
All right, great. And thank you all for being here again. And being busy. What inspired this topic? As Terrence Lamont was saying in the morning, we read the Universal Peace Covenant. A group of us gather on Zoom, and many times we'll stay after and have discussions. And that's what has prompted this meeting once a month on the fourth Friday of the month to offer it to everyone. And talking about topics for this, and I guess with the holidays and also just generally, like for me in my life, the whole idea of being busy, I almost want to say it's like a badge of honor. It was almost like if I say I'm busy, that sounds like I'm important and I'm doing stuff and I got a lot going on. And I think it's great to be busy. Actually, I like being busy. However, I know there's also a balance with it as well. I'll start with like the benefits of it is I have my attention on things I'm creating in my life, goals. I'm working with other people. I'm helping them and we're bringing stuff together and I feel productive. I feel more connected to the flow of life and my self-value comes out. I feel valuable and I see my contribution in the world. Where it can be a challenge sometimes is I will be busy to avoid sometimes feeling uncomfortable feelings or to maybe go deeper with something that has been like bothering me or something that I want to just delve into. Maybe I'll kind of skip from one thing to another. I know that can get into concentration, and we can talk about that as well. But basically, I've seen a lot of my busyness with, piling stuff up. That could be clutter as well. Piling things up and keeping me from really, listening to that inner voice. And let's stand up a second, because as I am doing this, there's this alarm going off. I'm like, okay. So maybe, slowing down and making sure, that's a good example there, that things are turned off before you get on Facebook Live or YouTube. So when I slow down and I give myself the space to reflect, and ideally I do that every day. I have that space, whether it be through meditation, walk in nature, then I receive more from myself. I'm able to become clear and really know what's going on with me. And I think so much of our culture and our society, especially around, this time of year, like on my way, a little story, on my way Wednesday, before Thanksgiving, I was coming to my mom's house and I was making several stops. And I allowed myself time and to get to where I was going in a smooth, peaceful way. Then I went to the grocery store day before Thanksgiving, and I'm like, and I sensed there was people, of course, but not an overwhelming amount of people. But there was people, and I just could pick up thoughts, it was the kind of frantic and trying to get everything together. And I think I was in the store maybe a half hour, 45 minutes. And after I came out, I was like, I just had to sit in the car and just kind of decompress. I'm like, geez, and as I was kind of calm, my drive was calm, my other two stops were calm. But then the grocery store was like, ah. So I could really tell, when people are in that kind of frantic, go, 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 we got to get this done. We got to get this done now. Or we have to have it, done before the store closes, make sure we got our Thanksgiving shopping. So I can see that state of mind really is not always as peaceful as it can be. Even though when I was in the store, I was observing and I did stay pretty centered while I was in there. It was just interesting to observe that. So yeah, it's the contrast between, the productive in my mind, effective, busy. Not sure if I even like that word busy. It's because it's having a lot of things to do, and sometimes it's like jumping from one thought to another. So I would like to hear everybody else's stories or their thoughts on when they're busy or when they take a step back and allow themselves to be less busy. So I'm looking at Terrence Lamont.
I'm trying to find out which button to push. Okay. So you're looking at Terrence Lamont, huh? So what I think about a lot of different things, and I create a lot. And so maintaining something about myself that I would call peaceful or concentrated or focused is what I can understand as being the most important aspect of this creation process that I call Terrence Lamont Bellows. The doing of things sometimes it is productive, right? You can't, being on the planet, living, it's like, what are you going to do? You're just going to sit around and do nothing? No, you can't do that. You have to, there's some reason why we're here in this physical expression. So there are purposes, there's ideals, there's reasoning, there's options, right? We're supposed to be doing something, or we wouldn't be here. And so the busyness that I experience would be in my mind. There's a way that I can slow my thinking down and still be just as active as I could be if my thinking was rapid, and be just as productive and get things done even if my mind was slowed down. So I've noticed that I've had those experiences. I was even when a couple of days ago, I'd not had any real sincere goals for my day. And so I stopped, I ate something and I sat down and I was like, all right, so I'm just going to sit here for a second. And then there was this gremlin that jumped into my mind and was like, get up, you got to do something. Go. You could do this. You could do that. And I was like, what is going on? I was like, no, I don't have to do anything. It was like, that was, and I was like, who is that? I was like, what's going on? And I had to shut that part of my mind down and say, I don't have to do anything. I'm fine. I can choose to do something. It was a very interesting experience where I had to kind of talk to myself and be like, wait a minute, man, don't listen to that. That other part of yourself is crazy. You don't got to listen to that. You can sit right here. It's okay. Just sit down, man. It's okay. This is really an odd experience. It just happened a couple of days ago. And then I was like, okay, I got to watch that because that can get away. It can just be gone and I won't even know that it's happening. This thought process of go do something. If you're not doing something, there's something wrong with you. It's like, wow, that happens. Okay, I got to watch that. And so whenever I'm able to be still in my mind, then if I decide I want to go do something, then I'll go do it. I can be productive. I don't have to have that rapid thinking thing going on in order to be productive. And so it's a very interesting experience. I love being aware in that way. So that's kind of the recent experience I had. But yeah, Robert, what do you got?
Alan Watts's mantra, don't just do something, sit there. I look at my morning meditation as an hour-long meditation is kind of an escape from reality in a way. I look at meditation as being a kind of a refuge because I know that no matter what happens to me on a sort of material level or a spiritual level, that I have the opportunity to escape that in a very real sense. In other words, the idea is that I do what's called Vipassana meditation, which is I don't use a mantra or try to empty my mind in a conscious attempt. What I do is I look at the thoughts that come in and, the monkey mind stuff that occurs to you during meditation, like clouds in the sky. So I don't try to hang on to a thought, but I let the, neurophysiologically, if you hold a thought for a period of time, it will dissipate by itself. So it's fun to kind of watch these thoughts arise and sort of form a pattern and then disappear. Some people say, well, I use my meditation for creativity to come up with interesting ideas for paintings or a novel. I think that's kind of a way of misinterpreting the meditation. I don't want to judge anyone else's meditation, but for me, the idea is I have to learn through meditation that I can control my mind, that my mind doesn't control me. See, most people think of the mind as being the supreme force in their life or something like that, especially intellectuals. They're very, very tied to the idea of mind as the controlling master force in their life. There is something above the mind, and that's really interesting to find that. And that's, all of you folks, I'm sure, are very familiar with the idea that you can control your mind and the mind does not control you. So, one of the nice things about retirement is that I don't have a lot of mundane concerns that normally affected me when I was out working and trying to hustle and make a living and worried about money and all that kind of stuff. I'm somewhat free from that, which is nice,
Yeah.
So for me, it's almost like whenever I talk to anyone, it's like, oh, I'm so busy. I'm busy with my business. I'm busy with school. I'm busy with this or that, right? But I really need to get clear on whether it's a stress-driven busyness or if it's like a soul-driven busyness, right? And a stress-driven one for me would be like, is it, am I doing the things out of fear? Am I doing the things out of distraction? Am I doing them because, I feel like I need to earn, I need to earn my lack of busyness, my relaxation. And so I feel like I have to keep busy, you know. I like to check in with my body. Lately I've I can tell, I can tell there's different things that happen to me. Like I get overreactive. I'm not present. I'm not conscious when I'm in that stress, driven busyness or activities, right? And so lately I'm just spending a lot of time checking in with my body. Like I'm studying different energies of my body. And so I'm studying my solar plexus, and that's a good indication, if I get still and I just ask I have the thought, am I ready to move into another busy activity? And then I just pay attention to my body. And if I feel, expansion from the center of my being, then I think, okay, I'm ready to move out. I'm ready to go do something. And if I'm in soul driven, I'm feeling present. I'm able to hear my higher self, my intuition, I'm not questioning the things that I'm doing. I'm not questioning whether what I'm doing is right or wrong. It flows, right? And so if I check in with my solar plexus and and it's contracted and, and I feel unclear and unfocused or then I know, okay, it's time to get grounded. It's not time to do another thing. It's time to stay with myself and to tap back into that stillness and quiet that, constant dialogue that's happening, And so I'm glad that this was the topic because, I think I'm in a place where going to the school and, I get to be a teacher. I get to own my own business. I get to be a student. I get to like be of service to my mom and be of service to people around me, and a lot of times when I get into that stress-driven busyness, I start being resentful that I have all these responsibilities, and so that's why it's so important for me to check in with my body and check in with um, what I'm doing. Am I doing this from stress or am I doing this from my soul? And then that guides me to whether or not to do yet another thing. So I'm really grateful to have been asked to come on tonight. So that is all.
Thank you, Alex. And this kind of sparked something in me. I know there's this term called adrenalizing that, it's like almost get, I say a hit, a charge off, like, oh, I'm busy, it's like addictive. Can be like an addictive type of behavior. And then like for me, if I'm in that space, like you were saying, it's like, okay, is this soul driven or is it just, me trying to avoid or, just to please other people? That was a big thing for me, trying to please somebody else or to get approval. Look, see, I'm doing this. So that's important to check in. So thank you. Melissa, you have anything you would like to share?
Well, yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up as far as well, everyone actually. It's been really good to hear. Because I feel like I do live in that adrenaline, like trying to get all the things done in a set amount of time. And I know for me, something that I've never scanned my body. So I think that that's a really, thanks Alex for sharing that, because I've never like thought about that. I definitely do the breathe up and down, like the in and out breathing, especially like if I'm at work and I need, if things are getting, if it's just one of those days, that is such a helpful tool to get me back grounded and centered, that I've learned in the lessons, and really have it's really helped me a lot with getting back centered, at least to a point to where it's like, okay, I'm back with myself, and not letting those feelings or emotions or whatever the case may be take over. So yeah, I think this is a really interesting discussion, because so many of us get so caught up in the day-to-day that we forget to do the things to love ourselves. I mean, which is taking that time or that breath or that moment to, just be not intimate with yourself, but I mean, like to really love yourself in that way. So I'm really grateful that this is the topic today, because, as having the day to day and then being a mom and things like, I love it. I love it. But there are those times that it's like, yeah, I need to check in, and I need to have the tools and the concentration to kind of still, like you say, still the mind. The candle helps me tremendously. So that's really all I wanted to say, is that in the car, whenever Stella, when you mentioned the car, like kind of getting that breath again, that's always kind of been one of those places for me that's been kind of like a little safe haven, because you're just kind of there when you're with yourself, and I love that. So, and I do that a lot. So anyway, that's really all I wanted to add.
Okay. Well, something comes up else, you can add that too. Don't, we're open. So open discussion. So the one of the experiences of some of the things y'all are talking about, one of the experiences of being still comes from obviously being in School of Metaphysics, being a student within the school. This is an organization. This is a school. This is a light-filled organization. We're bringing light to the planet, and in order to do that completely and totally, we have to bring the light into ourselves and become aware of who we are. And so that's a process for most of us. And so within this organization, we have these classes that we take. We have, like somebody said, lab positions. Somebody said exercises. Talked about meditation. There are different things that we do as a regulatory expression of being a student within the school, or a teacher within the School of Metaphysics, that provide you with this understanding of peace and open your mind, to contentment and realization of your own inner security. And so that's something that occurs. It happens. It happens if you are disciplined. This organization is beautiful in that way. If you align with it disciplinedly, then it will return the energy to you. It will feed you, in a way. And it is an intimate experience, I think. Actually, Melissa, I would say that being with yourself is an intimate experience, and it's an important one that I've grown to realize the importance of over years. I've been a student for about 18 years now, teacher. And but what I also know, I will say, there's other ways to kindly and calmly shave cats. Observe birds. You don't have to hurt them.
I just had an informational question. Forgive me, I'm a newbie here. So
Go ahead.
I notice a number of you folks are from Missouri, and I believe there's a chapter in Columbia, Missouri. Is that correct?
That was what Barbara was talking about. Yeah. So there is.
Yeah.
Okay.
because I think they've even held some meetings at the library here locally. But I was,
Mhm.
you know, I always sort of perk up. I'm a philosophy major in college, and I always perk up when I see the word metaphysics because it's an important but neglected aspect of philosophy. It's kind of fallen out of usage,
Hmm.
except in occult circles or something like that. But thanks for the info.
Yeah, it's unique. It is, and it expresses in a lot of different ways. So the way that we work with it is specific, and so I think you may, get a lot out of it. I believe. I've never thought about how close Jefferson City is to Columbia, though. I guess it must be fairly close.
It's about 30 miles. I frankly wish it were a little closer because the cultural opportunities in Colombia are much vaster. And I also follow pretty closely the Peace Nook in Colombia, which is very active in terms of political, social, economic peace, which I very much support too. But
Absolutely.
you know, the I would say there's what can I, without being too judgmental, I think there are more cultural opportunities in Columbia connected with the university and the art galleries and things like that than there is in Jeff City. But I'm a little limited in my transportation these days, so I don't get up there as much as I really want to.
Yeah, that's partially why Zoom was created, right? So that people can connect in different ways. So I'm glad you were able to find us here. Um, yeah, TJ, do you have a thought, manager?
Yeah, I've been thinking about some different ways I typically will hear the term busy. And one pretty old one is has to do with phones. And if you try to call someone, the phone is already occupied, and you'll say that the line is busy. It's already occupied, it's doing something else. I've also thought about uh, maybe, especially again, today being Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, most of the stores were busy today, which simply meant that they probably had a heightened level of activity higher than normal. Um, or maybe a restaurant can be busy. I like to go to a restaurant when it's busy because I think the food will be fresher because it's operating at its design capacity. It's supposed to be busy. If it's just sitting there, then I might have to wait longer because they have to cook fresh food, or the worst, I just get old food. um, I remember a line from I think it's Shawshank Redemption. Is that, yeah? I think that's the name of the movie, The Shawshank Redemption. That says you can get busy living or get busy dying. So they talked about being busy too. Um, Someone I think mentioned having a busyness, which is also a term that we use a lot. But I don't think we typically will relate to being busy. But it's a busyness. You go there to be busy. Um, I remember this is an experience. I remember visiting a cruise ship port and got off the ship pretty early, after we docked. I think it was morning time, and going, towards where all the shops were and where all the people go. And it was really busy because I think there were like two or three ships full of people there. This was, I think, Freeport, um, Bahamas, I believe. But there were just people everywhere. All the shops and stands had bunches and bunches of people at them, and everybody's trying to pick out what to buy, their toys, their trinkets, and there's oils and all whatever you can think of. It was in there, and just a bunch of people. And then I went and took a walk, outside the tourist area, and I think I stayed, pretty much for the whole time that the ship was there. And then when it was time to go back, I'm walking back through the same area, and it was like a ghost town. What happened to all the people? and all the shops and stands were still there. They're just kind of standing around. There was still some pretty good stuff at the shops too. So that's when I went. but but that creates, for me, a vision or a pretty clear picture of what busy can look like. But what does that mean for me being busy? Um, I like metaphors, and so I'll go back to like the restaurant or the phone line, and things of that being busy. I think I described it as operating at its capacity, and for me, in my experience, that capacity expands and contracts. So I can have the same level of activity and be perfectly fine. And there are some other times where that level of activity makes me say, "Oh, I'm so busy." um, and it's at those times, and I think Alex well put to words. An activity that she does is just kind of paying attention to my body. That took a long time for me to learn how to do. Before that, I just thought I was lazy. Whenever I felt busy and start to, it's almost kind of like feeling overwhelmed. And I don't like being overwhelmed. I just like to be whelmed, regular whelmed, not overwhelmed. Um, and Alex, I think, also made a distinction that I hadn't heard put to words, also, which was stress driven or soul driven. And Terrence Lamont, I think you touched on that when talked about, when it's soul driven or when it's purpose driven or it's fulfilling, it gives you back energy. And when it's stress driven, that's when you feel the overwhelm, or that's when I feel the overwhelm. And like there's just stuff piling on top of me. I felt that way yesterday morning at work, at busyness, when I had a lot of people waiting on me to respond to their questions, and then after that, I didn't feel overwhelmed or busy anymore. Alex also used a word that I think is key for this discussion, and mentioned having responsibilities. And I paused there on purpose. Response abilities. And Alex described, kind of the same thing. When that bandwidth is in a state of contraction, it feels heavy, and you wonder, why do I have all these responsibilities? But the answer is in the words. You have the ability to respond to them.
Right.
And that's really what I try to remember when I feel the stress driven busy. And Robert talked about meditation. Those are the times where I take a few minutes of meditation, listen to my body, and allow it to move back into the soul, or put the soul back into the driver's seat and not the stress. That's my experience with being busy.
Kind of funny. It's like, is it when it's an obligation, when you feel like uh, someone has expectations of what you should be doing, right? Opposed to being inspired of what you're doing, or feeling that obligation. To me, it's kind of like, like at the school, we do lots of things at the school. And so, sometimes it feels like a lot, we have a potluck this night, we have a meditation this night, a fundraiser, it's always something happening at the school, right? And it starts to feel like an obligation, right? And so, that's when we have to go back inside and get still and recheck what our why is. Well, what do we what are we getting from the experience? What are we giving to the experience? And it becomes more of an inspired action rather than an expected or a feeling of obligation to do it. And so then, yeah, we're busy. We're very busy at the school, but it's coming from a place of calm, alignment, harmony, and it just, and when it's not, then then we're very busy and then we start getting resentful. So it's very important to be in harmony with that, and sort of not allow other people to dictate our business by their expectations of us.
Yeah, it's important. So fuel for growth, what you're describing, it can keep a person moving toward the spiritual goals or the real goals that you might have that sometimes can go under the radar. They can be hidden, but once you start moving, you get active, then the truth can be revealed. So that there can be a sense of stability. There's this epitaph, if you want something done, give it to somebody who's busy, right? So that can be a productive thing, in the life, if you are in that way, if you understand it, that's what I think is really what we can hit on more. Maybe somebody else has a different way of explaining this, but the reality of doing things is productive, right? In a dream, we interpret dreams and we look at the busyness or the job that you might have, if that shows up in your dream, that we would interpret that as a way of being productive in the life. So there is an alignment with achieving something in, I think, what we're all touching on, in a high-minded way, so to speak, in a purposeful way, in a focused way, not just being, like an ant or something. Like if you look at, ants or animals of any kind, they just run around and go from here and go over there and go over here and go over there, right? We're the intelligent animal on the planet, right? The multi, faceted thinker. We can see things from many different angles. Something that always cracks me up, and I talk about this a lot when it's during the summer, especially, is to watch two sparrows or other small songbirds fight. It's like they're fighting over food most of the time, right? And it's like, what are you doing, dude? Just go over there. Just fly over there. There's another bug right there. You don't have to fight. It's like, just leave it alone. Let it go, man. It's like there's more food everywhere. It's all over the place. It's a funny thing to watch, and it's like we have to realize that we're not animals. We have a higher intelligence, and we can call upon that anytime we want. Scott, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I always think there's a difference between being busy and being productive. I can tell the difference. It's kind of like a rocking horse, you can have movement, but still not go anywhere. So I always like to be productive, or think if I'm busy, it needs to be productive, or else I probably should be doing something else. Or maybe just sitting there with my thoughts.
Yeah. Realizing is important, to realize what is this moment.
Yeah, busy can be distracting. Also, Robert was talking about meditation and observing the thoughts. And I think some people describe when they're trying to meditate that their mind is too busy, like it's too much noise, or they're too distracted. They can't focus. They can't concentrate, which is interesting because I think we talked about being busy as kind of a focus. But in this case, it's taken away from a person's ability to focus, or at least, that's how many people would describe that. My mind is too busy. There are too many thoughts. and they won't be quiet.
Mhm.
I think Robert aptly described how that can be handled. You just release that and let it go. But I think that's also true of this kind of stress-driven busyness that we were talking about as well. And Scott, I think, made a great contrast about productivity and being busy, because busy can be distracting there as well, where you, you said you just kind of running around and not really getting anything done. You can still be busy and not productive. Just like the mind can do that and take away from productivity as well, with the busy thoughts.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I used to work in the restaurant industry. I loved it. I think I still do. I've done it a long time, so I don't know for sure. But when I was there, yeah, it would get busy and it would just everybody be running around. It's almost basketball too. I love basketball. And it's like so there's a contrast here, right? There's a relationship between playing basketball in college or high school and my youth, and then working at restaurants. I don't know if anybody else has ever done both of those things, but they are very much related, because you got to be able to move your body when you're in the restaurant. You got to let somebody by. You got to remember to say corner when you're coming around the corner, so you don't run into somebody with a tray or something. And you got, so it's like, basketball is very similar. You got, you're moving around, you got to evade people you want, the other team, and you got to connect with your team. And so it's like this telepathic, holographic, experience. And my God, I loved it. It was just it was a fun part of my life, both of them. And I worked at this really nice restaurant called Z's Wine and Oyster Bar in Louisville. Beautiful place, wonderful place to work. Totally led by spirit to walk in there and ask for a job. Like I had no idea where I was. But when when I got in there, I was like, what is this? I was like, this is great, like beautiful place, 5-star restaurant. Just loved it, right? And we would go weeks, at least several days on the general year where hardly nobody might come into the store in the restaurant at all, because it was that expensive, right? People weren't just walking in and out of like McDonald's or something. You came there for a purpose, right? And so on holidays, extremely packed, right? Wall to wall, every holiday. And then you had Kentucky Derby. And that week of the Preakness and the Kentucky Derby, that week, the restaurant would make every single dollar it needed to keep operating for the rest of the year, just in that week. That's how busy it would be. And that is an experience to witness how that works, to see all of these wealthy people coming in from different countries, and all, you can tell these people are different, and it was just, I was very blessed to work at that restaurant for the short period that I did, but I learned so much about life and about what the value of being busy, and what it really means and how it works and how you can direct energy, how a person can direct energy. The owners and the managers were just, they didn't worry about all those times when they weren't making any money, because they knew what was coming. They understood.
I love that example because it's kind of like, I've worked in many restaurants too. It's like everything has to flow,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone has to be on the same page of the flow. And it's like a ballet in the kitchen. And I don't know. Like when you started talking about it, I wanted to yell, I'm in the weeds.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which is another, term for I'm freaking busy. Anyway.
I think something you're talking about in terms of teamwork. My background is in film production and usually documentaries, so that it's not necessarily a prepared script. But when you get a group of people that that you can work well with, like the sound man, the gaffer. Usually I had a 3 or 4 man crew that I was working with. I was the cameraman. But the beauty is that when you get with a group of people that you almost develop a psychic connection in a way. In other words, when something happens, everybody knows what to do to maximize the effect. And that's what I think you're talking about, the relationship between your work in the restaurant and the teamwork involved in a good basketball team, that you get that. And there's also the quality which you mentioned, flow, which there's a whole theory about flow, which is when you're in the zone, or whatever you would refer to it as, like maximum capacity, you get in almost an altered state of consciousness, which occurs again like with any kind of teamwork thing. It has that sense of flow. Once you get in that kind of thing, it's almost like you have a common mind in a way. And that's frankly one of the most beautiful experiences that I think a human being can have. I mean, it goes way back to hunter-gatherers and being able to, have an effective hunt, or, to develop a community ritual or something like that. That's really an important part of the experience of being a human being. And in a way, I pity people who've not been able to really have that experience, because once you have it, it's something you kind of keep seeking, because it's such a really transformative experience, in the human nervous system.
I
It's a,
frequently
it's a
suggest,
blessing and a curse too, because once you've seen it and once you know how it works, when you don't experience that, like if you're at a job and there are people around that aren't working in that flow, it's like you
Mhm,
can't unknow the flow.
exactly.
You
Yeah.
know?
I frequently suggest to people who are younger than me to try working at a restaurant. Just give it a try. Just see what it's like, you know.
I've worked at a lot of restaurants myself, so I can really appreciate that analogy. Yeah, and I kind of miss it a little bit. I was like, as all everybody was speaking, like, how did I work 12-hour shifts? Like, just not too much of a break. And I'm like, well, this is pretty amazing. But it's that flow. That's that busy. Yeah, it's the flow we're all talking about.
Mhm.
Thank you. So getting
Yeah.
close to our time a little bit.
Yeah,
I
we
don't,
usually go for an hour.
yeah.
Pretty normal from 6:30 to 7:30. But if anybody else has anything they want to share, I mean,
If anybody,
floor is open.
I will say I haven't worked with a lot of people in my life, but I've been in the flow. I think you can get there without working with others as well. That's just from my experience.
Oh, you definitely can. Yeah, and then you can bring that to the cooperative experience with others.
Yeah.
I've had that experience writing. I mean, it's not necessarily the province of just group activity, but it can be very much an individual experience. That's why I think everybody ought to have some experience of creating art, because in art you can develop. I mean, even a craftsman, someone making a bracelet or a ring or something like that, you can get in that state of flow, which is a kind of a state of inspiration that that's very you know I think of it probably more in terms of writing, because that's since I've retired from film work, my creativity has gone more into writing. I've been taking courses at Lincoln University in poetry and fiction, and it's quite nice once you go, if you start a story and suddenly it seems to be writing itself.
Yeah.
That's flow, and there's almost nothing that can be superior to that.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
I remember having that experience in college. If I had a paper to write, I wouldn't necessarily, put it off. Like I would try to sit down and do it. I'd do the research and all those things and just wouldn't jail. But once it started to go, the whole paper would just come right out. Yeah,
Mm.
I'd have to go back and edit and do some corrections, but yeah, the paper would just write itself after I've been beating my head against the wall for a week.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm an actor, Robert. I've acted a lot in my life too. I'm recognizing, Scott, about how many times I have been in groups and teams. I'm realizing that now. I'm thinking to myself, wow, I worked at a hospital. You know, I've been an actor for a long time. I love working at restaurants. I love sports. So I've spent a lot of time working on teams, being a part of a team. And I guess that's probably why I value solitude so much, because I recognize the need for balance. And as a life, as a soul, as a human, you know, just over this span, of my existence, there's a need for balance. It's pretty, yeah.
Reality to work, we must be aligned first, and that's when it works, Alex. It works when the people involved are whole and the flow, Scott, is already going on in them, and so then you have that to offer, and it's a group that then does it. And everybody in the film industry, my son is a director of photography in St. Louis, and he, it's his passion, because the world really is a stage in our everyday lives, whether we're doing theater or not, we are. And to be aware of it and to know the difference between what's authentic and what's artificial, what's real and what's fake, absolutely essential right now. What I really thought of when you were talking, Terrence, when you brought it up, and then everybody else was talking about the service industry, which is what you're talking about to my ears. You're talking about hospitality. And it made me think about what happened in 2020 when the world shut down for a little while, just long enough to totally disrupt the rhythm that we had moving, that was so natural to us, that really was moving everybody toward greater and greater hospitality. And that got interrupted. And we're still trying to come back from that. And hopefully we will, with more awareness, more recognition, more responsibility, personal responsibility. And I think we will. I think that's all part of the process, as we like to say, and the evolution and all that. But think of hospitality, because I was born into it. My family was involved with the motel industry. We had a family motel and built it when I was 1 year old. And I was in that industry until I was 10, and then life changed some. And also a family of ministers. So everything was about serving people from the very beginning, and I'm very grateful for that. Caused a lot of disruptions in my brain and all that kind of thing that I had to work through, but I would not trade it for anything. And what I thought about tonight was that the word hospitality, the root word is hospital, and you just brought that up, Terrence. It is about serving the needs of the self, whether it's personal or universal or between people, whatever it is, but it's serving the needs of the self for wholeness. Not just because there's something wrong. The best creations happen when there's nothing wrong, but there's something that everybody can see, a vision that's the same. That's how the Peace Dome came about. And you guys talk about that a lot. So it's like, yeah. And to me, that's the heart and soul of the school. That was what I loved the most about being in the center of anything going on at the school. And yeah, I got really busy and got very full. But I never lost sight of why it was, because the life and blood of any school is new people. When new people stop being interested in coming, you're dead. You're dead in the water, and you may not know it yet, because you may still have a building or whatever, but it's like you don't have a school. You have to have new people. They're the lifeblood of everything. So hospitality and the attitude of hospitality is everything. And when you're really doing anything, it is with the family, Melissa. It's like when you're working and then you're home and you're with Brooke, and it's like it gets very, very full. And really see it as full, because that's why we're here. We're not here to do nothing. That really is a true thing. And many people like to convince themselves that that's what we're supposed to be doing. But no, that's a good recipe for being back again at some other time, place, whatever. You came here to do something special and unique that only you can express and perform. And that's everyone's personal responsibility. So that's why I loved SOM, because it gave me a vehicle to reach people and bring that out, to just coax it out, to inspire it.
Yeah.
Hospitality is really where it's at. Serving.
The essence of fulfilling, being fulfilled. You know, I think that's what that word really means, how you're describing it. And this is a fulfilling experience.
It has been.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, yeah, we never know how this is going to go. We have a cursory subject. We're just going to talk about this. We're going to tell stories, and somebody's going to come. We're going to have this was wonderful. This was great. I'm appreciative of all of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking your time out on your Black Friday or this holiday season.
From our busy lives.
Your busy lives.
Yeah. Busyness.
Making this part of our business.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to have met you folks. I think I found some kindred spirits here.
And
So,
you, Robert.
I will be back. It's really very delightful to talk to enlightened people that are not, what shall I say, that are not too proud of being enlightened. So,
I like that.
pride is always one of the, when you achieve a certain level of spiritual development, there's always the temptation to say, "Oh, what a good boy am I," and then it's like that. You automatically go back and start at square one after you say that. So it's
Right.
nice to find some. It's nice to find some people that are unself-consciously kind, I guess the word is. But thanks for being who you are. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank
You as
you. Man.
well.
Yeah. Glad everybody was here. Thanks for being here.
All right, thank
So,
you.
yeah, absolutely. So, of course, we do. Oh, go ahead, so.
I was going to say, of course, yeah, every morning at 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern, we read the Universal Peace Covenant. And you go to peacedome.org to register for the Zoom link. And yeah, it takes about 10 or 15 minutes to read the Universal Peace Covenant. And we would love to expand that. The space is open. And many of us have been doing this for, was that 2060? I think it's 2068.
7? Yeah, I
It's
think it's
68
768.
was the,
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
yeah, so I double checked. I'm like, oh, that's it. So yeah, it's changed my life. It's helped me to be more still, more calm, more peaceful, and be able to recognize when I'm in that busyness or in the flow, as we've talked about tonight. So
Yep. And then we come back here every fourth Friday at 6:30. Any final words of wisdom, Melissa?
No, just thank you. Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
All right. Glad everybody was
Thank
here.
you.
And go to peacedome.org and you can join us for both these events. And of course, you can go to som.org as well and learn more about the School of Metaphysics as a whole. So